Right in the middle of our wedding, my husband suddenly slapped me before everyone after his sister whispered into his ear. For a moment, all the guests stood frozen in shock. But instead of crying or fleeing, I stared him down, held my head up proud. What I did in front of those guests destroyed him. Can you imagine saying I do? Feeling like your life is finally turning around, only for your brand new husband to strike you across the face in front of everyone you know? That moment, it wasn't just a slap. It was the shattering of a dream, a public humiliation that should have broken me. But instead, it ignited something inside me, something fierce and terrifying. And what I did next? Well, it absolutely destroyed his world, and in doing so, it saved mine. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. To understand that moment, that beautiful, terrible ruin, we need to go back. My story really begins on the worst day of my life. My mother had just died, pancreatic cancer, fast and brutal. I was 26, standing in a funeral home parking lot, the air thick with exhaust and cut grass. I couldn't go back inside. Couldn't bear another platitude about time healing all wounds. Time doesn't heal, it just teaches you how to walk around with a wound, how to pretend you're not bleeding. I was leaning against my hot car when I heard footsteps. A man stood there, tall, lean, with dark hair falling across his forehead and eyes like sea glass. He held out a silver flask. "You look like you need this more than I do," he said. I was wary. I don't drink with strangers. He took a sip first, then offered it again. "I'm Julian. Now we're not strangers." The whiskey burned, but it was a different kind of burn than grief. A cleaner pain. We stood there, passing the flask, not talking, just existing in our separate sorrows. That's how Julian slipped into my life, into the raw, open space my mother's death had left behind. Julian Clark was a real estate developer, successful, ambitious, with the kind of confidence that comes from never truly being broken. His family had old money, the kind that whispers instead of shouts. He said his own mother's early death made him understand loss, but understanding loss and living inside it are two very different things. He courted me like something out of a movie. Flowers, fancy dinners, weekend trips where he'd trace my spine with his fingertips. "You're different," he'd murmur. "Everyone else wants something from me. You just want me." God help me, I believed him. 6 months in, he introduced me to his sister, Veronica. She was younger, with the same sharp cheekbones, but her eyes held ice where his held warmth. Brunch at an upscale bistro. She was late, of course, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my rent. "So you're the accountant," she drawled, not even bothering with a polite greeting. Julian always did have a thing for strays. Julian tried to warn her off, but she just shrugged. "What? I'm just saying she's not exactly what we expected." That should have been my first clue, shouldn't it? But I was so desperate to be loved, so eager to fill the void, I swallowed the insult. I told myself she was just protective. I was wrong about so many things. He proposed on the anniversary of my mother's death. He took me back to that same parking lot, but it was transformed. String lights, a violinist, rose petals covering the ground. Julian knelt, ring glinting like a captured star. "You've made me believe in second chances," he said, his voice cracking. "Marry me." I said yes. How could I not? The ring was platinum, a 3-carat diamond, heavy with promise. I let myself believe I deserved this, that the universe was finally paying me back. We set the date for June, 18 months away. Veronica insisted on being my maid of honor. "We're going to be sisters," she cooed, squeezing my hand a little too tight. But at every dress fitting, every cake tasting, those cold eyes watched me. And sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, she'd lean into Julian, whispering something. His expression would darken, just for a second. "What does she keep telling you?" I asked once. "Nothing important," he dismissed. "She's just stressed." But it bothered me. It burrowed under my skin like a splinter. Then, 3 months before the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. 2 pink lines. Unmistakable. I was carrying Julian's child. The timing was awful. We'd agreed to wait. But here it was, life refusing our carefully laid plans. I bought a little onesie that said "worth the wait" and wrapped it up, planning to tell him that night. This was our future, growing inside me. I arrived at his apartment early, using the key he'd given me. Lights were off, but I heard voices from the bedroom. Julian's and a woman's. My heart stopped. For a terrifying second, I thought. But then I recognized the second voice, Veronica. I crept closer, the door ajar. They were on the edge of the bed. You have to tell her before the wedding, Veronica was saying. It's not fair to let her walk into this blind. I can't, Julian pleaded. If she finds out, she'll leave. Then maybe she should, Veronica hissed. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Do you really love her? Or do you love the idea of her? The sweet, broken little orphan who worships the ground you walk on. Then she started on my finances. My messy history, credit card debt, a bankruptcy from when I was 22. She's using you, Veronica sneered. She saw dollar signs and a way out of her pathetic little life. Julian's voice cracked. Don't compare her to Mom. A long silence. Then Veronica, softer, more dangerous. I'm just trying to protect you. You know what happened to Dad after Mom died? How that woman swooped in and took half his fortune. I won't let the same thing happen to you. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling a sob. Pathetic little life. Gold digger. Had some unconscious part of me been drawn to his wealth, his stability? No. I loved him for him. But standing there, in the dark, listening to them dissect my character, my motives, my worth, something inside me cracked. I backed away, silent, leaving the apartment, the onesie still in my purse, our child's secret unspoken. I didn't tell him what I'd overheard. I told myself I was paranoid, that I'd misunderstood. But the words echoed in my head. She's using you. Pathetic little life. Just like Mom. The wedding preparations blurred. My morning sickness worsened, but I hid it. Julian grew distant, working late, taking calls in other rooms. Sometimes, I'd catch him staring at me, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Are you happy? I asked one night, a week before the wedding. He was quiet for too long. I love you, he finally said. Not yes. I wanted to push, to demand answers, but I was terrified of what I'd hear. So I let it go, swallowing the question with all the other unspoken things. Veronica's bridal shower felt more like an interrogation. His aunts asked pointed questions about my background. Someone mentioned a prenuptial agreement. When I said we hadn't discussed one, the room went silent. Veronica smiled. Oh, how modern of you both. But her eyes said something else. That night, I asked Julian about it. My lawyer mentioned it, he said. But I told him no. I don't want to start our marriage assuming it'll fail. But did he really trust me? The doubt was a living thing now, coiled in my stomach alongside our growing child. The morning of the wedding was chaos. Nerves, my bridesmaid said, as I threw up what little breakfast I'd eaten. No, not nerves. Our baby, making its presence known. I still hadn't told Julian. It never felt right. And now it was our wedding day. I'd wait until tonight, until we were alone in the honeymoon suite, until everything was official. The ceremony was at 3 p.m. in the gardens of Julian's family estate. 200 guests, an orchestra, flowers flown from Ecuador. Everything I'd dreamed of, and nothing I'd wanted. Veronica came to my dressing room. You look beautiful, she said, hollowly. Can I tell you something, sister to sister? My stomach clenched. Julian's terrified of becoming like our father. He thinks every woman just wants his money. She paused, her eyes meeting mine in the mirror. Julian needs patience. And understand, I'm only trying to protect my brother. She squeezed my shoulder and left, leaving behind the scent of expensive, cold perfume. The music swelled. I walked down the aisle on my uncle's arm. Julian stood at the altar, looking like every dream I'd ever had. For a moment, everything else fell away. This was real. We exchanged vows, exchanged rings. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. He kissed me, the guests applauded, and I tasted salt. Was it his tears or mine? We walked back down the aisle, rose petals drifting like snow. Everything was perfect. Then the garden reception. Golden light, champagne, laughter. Julian and I stood near the fountain, accepting congratulations. His hand was warm, possessive on my back. Excuse me, he said. I need to speak with my father. He stepped away. Veronica appeared, touching his elbow, drawing him aside. They moved toward a cluster of rose bushes. I couldn't hear, but I saw her pull a folded piece of paper from her purse. She handed it to Julian. He opened it, read it, and his face changed. It was like watching ice form over water. Everything in him went cold. His jaw clenched. His hands, those hands that had touched me so gently, crumpled the paper. He looked up. His eyes found mine across the garden, and there was nothing in them I recognized. He started walking toward me. The crowd parted. Something in his expression made people instinctively step back. My heart hammered. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew it was bad. I could feel it in my bones. Julian! My voice came out small. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell champagne, see the muscle jumping in his jaw. Is it true? His voice was low, dangerous. Is what true? I don't. And then his hand moved. Fast. Brutal. The crack of his palm against my cheek echoed like a gunshot across the garden. Pain exploded. I stumbled, nearly falling. My veil slipped. My vision blurred with tears that were part pain, part shock. The entire reception went silent. I touched my burning cheek, tasted blood, looked up at him, my husband of less than an hour, and saw a stranger. How could you? His voice broke. How could you do this to me? I was spinning. He'd hit me. In front of everyone. On our wedding day. Veronica stood behind him, hand over her mouth, but her eyes held a flicker of satisfaction. And then I understood. Whatever was on that paper, whatever she told him, it was a lie. She'd been waiting for this. Orchestrating it. Setting me up. The rage that swept through me was cleaner than anything I'd ever felt. It burned away the pain, the confusion, the hurt. It left only clarity. I straightened, lifted my chin, and looked him dead in the eye. Ask me what you think I did, I said. My voice was steady as stone. Say it out loud. In front of everyone. Whatever you're accusing me of, say it. Julian's face twisted. You know what you did. The money. The offshore accounts. You've been stealing from my company for a year. His voice rose, raw with betrayal. Veronica showed me the evidence. Bank statements, wire transfers, all traced back to you. You've embezzled nearly $500,000. $500,000. Embezzlement. Offshore accounts. I almost laughed. It was so absurd. Show me, I said. Show me this evidence. Let everyone see it. He hesitated, looking at Veronica. She quickly stepped forward. I don't think this is the place. Show me. I held out my hand. He pulled the crumpled paper from his pocket. It was a printout of bank statements, account numbers, transactions. My name highlighted in yellow. Hundreds of transfers, all funneling into a Cayman Islands account. The forgery was good. Professional. These are fake, I said. Don't. Julian's voice cracked. Don't lie to me anymore. My lawyer verified everything. The account exists. The money is real. Your signature is on the transfer authorizations. Then your lawyer is incompetent, or in on it. I turned to the crowd. I have never stolen a single dollar from my husband. This is a fabrication. I turned back to Julian. And I can prove it. How? Veronica's voice was sharp. I smiled at her, a cold, terrible smile. Because I'm an accountant. And I spent the last 6 months reviewing every financial document in Julian's company, preparing to merge our finances after the wedding. I walked to a nearby table, grabbed my maid of honor's purse, pulled out my phone. I know every account, every transaction, every signature. And these, I held up the papers, are not mine. I opened my email, found the folder I'd been building, just in case. These, I said, holding up my phone, are the real financial records of Clark Development. And you know what I found when I was reviewing them? Interesting patterns. Money moving in ways that don't make sense. Payments to shell companies. Invoices for work that was never done. Julian's face had gone pale. What are you talking about? I'm talking about real embezzlement. Someone has been stealing from your company for years. And I know who. I looked straight at Veronica. It's you. She laughed. A harsh, breaking sound. That's insane. Why would I steal from my own family? Because your father cut you off 2 years ago, didn't he? After you blew through your trust fund gambling. Because you have debts that would bury you. Because you saw your brother's company as a piggy bank. I pulled up a spreadsheet on my phone. Every shell company you created traces back to a single law firm. Your boyfriend's law firm. The same boyfriend you've been hiding because your family would never approve. He helped you create fake vendors, false invoices, dummy corporations. You've stolen over $3 million in the past 5 years alone. The crowd gasped. Julian staggered backward. That's impossible. Veronica would never. She would. And she's been terrified I'd discover it. That's why she's been poisoning you against me. That's why she fabricated this evidence tonight. She was hoping you'd divorce me immediately, before I could finish my audit, before I could expose her. I turned to Veronica. She was shaking, her perfect composure cracking. You almost got away with it. The accounts are well hidden, but you made one mistake. You used the same routing number for multiple transfers. Once I spotted the pattern, the rest unraveled fast. Julian was staring at his sister like he'd never seen her. Veronica, he whispered. She's lying. Veronica croaked, but her voice was weak now. Julian, you can't. Believe her. Prove it, I said. Let's call the police. Let them investigate. Let's see whose accounts hold up under scrutiny. Mine or yours? Silence. Long and terrible. Then Veronica's face smoothed over. The fear vanished, replaced by something cold as glass. You stupid little bitch, she said softly. You think you've won? I think the truth is going to come out. The truth, she laughed, a sound like breaking glass. The truth is that Julian never loved you. I made sure of that. Every doubt I planted, every suspicion I nurtured, it was all real. Deep down, he never trusted you. He never believed you loved him for who he was. She turned to her brother. Tell her how many nights you stayed awake wondering if she was using you. Tell her about the private investigator you hired to dig into her past. Julian's face confirmed it. He'd actually hired someone to investigate me. Something inside me finally, irrevocably broke. You hired a private investigator? My voice was flat. You married me while believing I might be a con artist. I just needed to be sure, he mumbled. You didn't trust me, I said, the words hollow. Not ever. Not once. I wanted to. I tried. You hit me, I said, touching my still-burning cheek. In front of 200 people. You struck me without asking questions, without giving me a chance to defend myself. You believed her over me. Shame finally crossed his features, but it was too late. Much, much too late. I took a breath, made my decision. I want you to know something, I said, my voice carrying across the silent garden. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. I found out 3 months ago. And I didn't tell you because I overheard you and Veronica discussing how I was just using you for your money. I was waiting for the right moment, hoping it would prove my love was real. I pulled the small, wrapped package from my purse, the onesie I'd carried for months, and threw it at his feet. Congratulations. You're going to be a father with a woman you don't trust, who you physically assaulted in front of everyone you know, on what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. The gasps from the crowd were audible now. Phones were out, recording everything. Julian's face had gone gray. You're pregnant? I was going to tell you tonight. I had it all planned. But now, looking at him, truly looking at the man I'd given 3 years of my life to, I felt nothing but cold, clean rage. Now I'm going to walk away. I'm going to divorce you before the ink on our marriage certificate is dry. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. The kind who believes lies over the woman carrying his child. The kind who solves problems with violence. I turned to the crowd. Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry you had to witness this, but I'm glad you did. Because now you all know the truth about the Clark family. About what happens behind the gates of their estate. About the rot beneath the money and the power and the perfect image. I started walking. My feet hurt. My face throbbed. My heart felt like it was tearing open. Behind me, I heard Julian call my name. Wait, please. We can fix this. We can. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. Out of the garden, through the estate, toward the front gates, where I knew my uncle was waiting with the car. Behind me, chaos erupted, shouting. Veronica's voice rising in denial, Julian's father demanding explanations. Guests whispering. Phones buzzing, the story already spreading like wildfire. I didn't care. I was done. Finished. The wedding dress was ruined anyway. The story went viral by midnight. Videos of a slap, of my accusation, of me walking away, my head held high. By morning, I was famous. Not the kind of famous anyone wants, but famous nonetheless. The slapped bride. The wedding revenge. The accountant who destroyed a dynasty. The news picked it up. Social media exploded. Julian tried to call. I blocked him. Emails. Deleted. He showed up at my apartment. I called the police. His lawyer sent divorce papers within a week. I signed them gladly, but I also hired my own lawyer, a good one, the kind who smelled blood in the water. We went after everything. Community property, assets accumulated during our brief marriage, compensation for emotional distress. And we went after Veronica. The audit I'd started proved everything. The police got involved, federal investigators. It was bigger than anyone had realized. Over $5 million stolen across 7 years. Her boyfriend was arrested. Julian's company nearly collapsed. His father had a stress-induced heart attack. The family name, so carefully cultivated, was destroyed. I felt nothing watching it burn. No satisfaction, no regret. Just a hollow kind of tiredness. I moved across the country, to San Diego, where the weather was always perfect and no one knew my face. I had the baby, a girl. She had Julian's eyes and my mother's chin, and a fierce scream that made the nurses laugh. I named her Grace, after my mother. Julian tried to establish visitation rights. My lawyer fought him. The video of the slap was shown in family court. The judge's expression was carved from ice. "You struck your pregnant wife in public," she said. "Supervised visitation only, pending anger management and counseling. Substantial child support." He left the courtroom looking like a ghost. I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad. Sad for what could have been. Sad for Grace, who would grow up with a father who'd never truly be present. Sad for the girl I'd been, the one who thought love could heal all wounds. But I built a life anyway. I started my own accounting firm, specializing in forensic audits. Turns out there's good money in exposing embezzlers. Grace grew. She learned to smile, to laugh. She filled the apartment with noise and chaos and love. My uncle helped. Friends from my old life reached out. I wasn't alone. Slowly, carefully, I learned to be happy again. Not the explosive, desperate happiness I'd felt with Julian. Something quieter, steadier. Years later, the call came. An unknown number. "Hello, it's me." Julian's voice, older, tired. I almost hung up. "What do you want?" I wanted you to know. Veronica was sentenced today. 15 years federal prison. I knew. I'd read about it. I also wanted to say," he paused, "I'm sorry. For everything. You were right about all of it. I didn't trust you. I let her poison me. And I hit you. I hate myself for that every single day." "Good," I said. Another pause. "How's Grace?" "She's perfect. You'll see her next month for your supervised visit." "Yes." He cleared his throat. Are you happy?" I looked around my office. Diplomas on the wall, photos of Grace on my desk, case files stacked neatly. The life I'd built from ashes and rage and sheer stubborn will. "Yes," I said. "I am." That's good." His voice cracked. "I really did love you, you know. I just didn't know how to trust it." "I know. If I could go back. But you can't," I said. "None of us can. We just have to live with what we've done." Silence. Then quietly, "Goodbye. Goodbye, Julian." I hung up. I looked at Grace's photo. Ice cream smeared across her face, pure joy radiating from every pixel. She would never see me crumble. She would grow up knowing her mother had stood up, brushed off the ashes, and built something beautiful from the ruins. People always ask if I regret it. Walking away from the money, the lifestyle, the man I'd loved. The answer is complicated. I don't regret leaving. I don't regret exposing the truth. I don't regret choosing myself and my daughter over a life built on lies. But I do grieve. I grieve for the version of us that could have existed if Julian had trusted me, if Veronica hadn't been a viper. I grieve for the girl I was, the one who thought a man could save her, who believed love was supposed to hurt a little. I know better now. Love isn't supposed to hurt. Real love makes you bigger, not smaller. It gives you room to breathe, to grow, to be wholly yourself. It doesn't demand you prove yourself. Julian's love was a cage dressed up as a castle. And the moment I walked out of that garden, wedding dress trailing, face throbbing, that was the moment I became free. 6 months after the divorce, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a letter. I'm writing this from a place you'll never visit. Veronica's elegant script read. I'm not writing to apologize for what I did to Julian's company. I'm only sorry I got caught. But I am sorry for what I did to you. You were collateral damage in a war you didn't even know you were fighting. My war against my father's favoritism, my brother's golden boy status, my own inadequacy. You walked into our family believing love was enough. And I made it my mission to prove you were just another gold digger. The truth is, I was jealous. You had something I've never had, the ability to love without calculation, to give without keeping score. Julian saw that in you, and it terrified him because it was real. And I couldn't stand watching him have something I knew I'd never find. So I destroyed it. I destroyed you. I destroyed him. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that you were right about everything. Every accusation, every ugly truth you threw in my face that day. And I wanted you to know something else. You won. Not because you exposed me. Not because you walked away. But because you survived. Because you're raising my niece somewhere, building a life, being happy. That's the thing I can't forgive you for. Not that you ruined us, but that you didn't let us ruin you. I read that letter 3 times. Then I burned it in the sink, watching the expensive paper curl into ash. Grace was napping. Through the window, the ocean stretched, endless and blue. I thought about writing back, about telling Veronica that they had ruined me in ways I was still discovering. That some nights I woke up gasping, dreaming of that slap. That I flinched when men raised their voices. But I didn't write back. Because the truth was more complicated than either victory or defeat. They had broken something in me. But I had rebuilt myself from the pieces, and the new version was stronger, harder, less willing to bend, less willing to believe that love required me to shrink. Maybe that was winning. Or maybe it was just survival. Either way, I was here. I was standing. I was whole enough. And that would have to be enough. 3 years later, Julian showed up at my door. Not the broken man from the phone call, or the ghost who came for supervised visits. This was someone different. Older, gray at the temples. But there was a stillness in his face now. I know I shouldn't be here, he said. But I needed to give you this. He held out a thick envelope. Veronica died 2 weeks ago. Lung cancer. I felt nothing. No grief, no satisfaction. Why are you telling me? Because she left something for you. For Grace. I took the envelope. Inside was a legal document. A trust fund. $2 million in Grace's name. Inaccessible until she turned 25. An attached note read, "For the girl I'll never meet. So she'll never have to marry for security. So she'll never have to wonder if she's worthy of love without strings. So she can be what I never was, free. Your aunt, who loved you in the only way she knew how. From a distance, with money, making sure you'd never need to become me." I stared at it. Julian stood on my doorstep. "She spent the last year of her life setting this up," he said quietly. "She wanted to make sure it couldn't be contested. She said it was the only good thing she'd ever done." "It doesn't change anything," I said. "I know. It doesn't make her a good person. I know that too. But Grace will have options. Security. A foundation." I looked up at him. "Thank you for bringing this." He nodded, turned to leave. "I'm in therapy," he said, stopping. "Real therapy. Not the court-mandated kind. I'm working on everything. The anger, the trust issues, the damage my family did to me, and I did to you. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know." "Good," I said. "And I wanted you to know that you were the best thing that ever happened to me. Even though I destroyed it. Even though I didn't deserve it." His eyes were wet. "You and Grace, you're the only real things I ever had." "Julian," I said, "I'm not trying to win you back. I know that's impossible. I just needed to say it once out loud." He stepped back. "Take care of yourself. Both of you." He drove away. Grace called from inside. "Mama, come see." I closed the door, locked it, put the envelope in my desk, and went to see what she'd built with her blocks. Something precarious and colorful, held together with the absolute certainty only a 3-year-old possesses. "It's a castle," she said proudly. It's beautiful, baby, I said, kissing the top of her head. And nothing can knock it down because I made it strong. That's right, she echoed. You made it strong. And that's all that matters. Grace is 13 now. She asks questions about her father, about the wedding day she's heard whispered about but never fully understood. I tell her the truth, age-appropriate versions, then more detail. I show her the video. Yes, it's still out there, immortal in the way internet infamy always is. I let her see the moment her father struck me. The moment I stood tall. The moment I walked away. Were you scared? She asks. Terrified, I say. But you did it anyway. Yes. Why? I think about this. About how to distill years of pain and growth and hard-won wisdom into something a 13-year-old can understand. Because staying, I tell her, taking her hand, would have taught you the wrong lesson. It would have taught you that love means accepting cruelty. That marriage means silence. That being hid is something you forgive and forget. I wanted you to grow up knowing that you're worth more than that. That we're both worth more. She's quiet for a long time. Then, did you love him? Yes, very much. Do you still? No. I love who I thought he was. But that person never really existed. The real Julian was too damaged, too afraid, too poisoned by his family to be the partner I needed. I squeezed her hand. But I got you. And you're real. You're the best thing that came from all of it. She leans her head on my shoulder. I'm glad you walked away, she whispers. Me, too, baby. Me, too. Julian remarried eventually. A quiet woman, a therapist actually. Someone who understood his damage and chose to love him anyway. They had a son. He sent me a photo. I texted back, congratulations, and meant it. My uncle passed away when Grace was 12. We mourned him together, planting a tree, telling stories about his terrible jokes and his fierce love. Grace gave the eulogy, poised and brave and heartbreaking. I dated occasionally. Nothing serious. I wasn't sure I wanted serious. I'd learned to be happy alone, with Grace, with the life we'd built. Adding someone else felt risky, unnecessary. But there was a man, eventually, a teacher at Grace's school. Kind eyes, patient. He'd been through his own divorce, understood that some doors inside me would always be locked. I'm not looking to save you, he told me on our third date. You're not broken. You're just careful, and that's okay. We took it slow. Grace graduated high school before I let him move in. But it worked. It was good. It was real. Not passionate like Julian. Not consuming. But steady. Built on truth instead of fantasy. And that, I learned, was its own kind of love story. People still recognize me sometimes. The video has been viewed millions of times. The Slapped Bride is a cautionary tale, a revenge fantasy, a symbol of female empowerment, or everything wrong with cancel culture, depending on who's talking. I don't care anymore. Let them project whatever they need onto that moment. I know what it really was. The end of one story and the beginning of another. The first story was about a girl who thought love meant sacrifice, who believed that if she was just good enough, pure enough, loving enough, she could heal a damaged man and build a perfect life from the ruins of her grief. The second story is about a woman who knows better, who understands that you can't love someone into wholeness. That trust is the foundation of everything. That violence, even once, even in public, even with an apology, is never acceptable. That walking away is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. My daughter is applying to colleges now. She wants to study law, fight for domestic violence survivors. She says I inspired her, but I think she's just braver than I ever was. She didn't have to learn strength from breaking. She was born into it, raised in it, breathing it like air. The trust fund Veronica left will pay for her education. My uncle's life insurance will supplement it. And the business I built, the accounting firm specializing in exposing financial abusers, is thriving. I've helped dozens of women escape relationships built on economic control. I've testified in court. I've frozen assets, found hidden money, proved patterns of theft and manipulation. I turn my nightmare into my life's work. And every time I help someone escape, every time I watch recognition dawn in a client's eyes as they realize they're not crazy, they're not imagining things, they're being systematically robbed and gaslit, every time that happens, I think about that moment in the garden. The moment Julian's hand connected with my face. The moment I decided not to crumble. The moment I looked at him, at Veronica, at the 200 guests, and chose myself. That moment changed everything. Not because it made me stronger, I was always strong, but because it showed me that I was allowed to use that strength. That I didn't have to shrink. That I could stand in the wreckage of my dreams and say, "This is not acceptable. I am worth more. I deserve better." And then walk toward the life that proved it. So yes, my husband slapped me in the middle of our wedding. And what I did next, standing tall, speaking truth, walking away, rebuilding, surviving, thriving, didn't just ruin him. It saved me. And in the end, that was always the more important story. Now, I've shared my most painful and most empowering moment with you. I'm really curious if you've ever had to choose yourself in a truly impossible situation, or if you faced a betrayal that completely redefined your life. What did you do? What did you learn? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.